Charles Martin versus Tom Dallas, post-fight review. First things first, when I saw the guys face off just before the bell, I was surprised. Tom Dallas was a slightly taller man. Now, arguably that's not relevant due to the manner of this fight, which was won by Charles Martin first round KO. But I actually quite like that when you're looking at the development of a heavyweight. If we look at the UK's Anthony Joshua, I think it's relevant, for example, that Joshua's never faced anyone with the height dynamic, nobody his own size, nobody who's got the angle of being as tall as him. He's not just being able to jab down on him, he's got to jab at his own head height or maybe even slightly higher. So I thought that was interesting to see. Tom Dallas, obviously, he's been rusty, but he's been out of the ring for a long time, but he didn't look in terrible shape whatsoever. He looked fairly lean, possibly the leaner of the two actually. So yeah, I thought fair play to Tom Dallas when he came in. He came in clearly in a little bit of shape. It was a good opportunity for him, I guess, had he been able to upset Charles Martin. I watched the Box Nation coverage for this fight, and I must say, Barry Jones, I thought, was quite harsh on Charles Martin in commentary. Barry described him as quite crude. I don't really think he was crude at all. I think Charles Martin is a guy who has a bit of a look at his opponents at the beginning of his fights, tries to work them out, tries to work out their style. I don't think Charles Martin is necessarily a heavyweight who goes off like a Manny Pacquiao. He's not someone who tries to overwhelm you straight away in the manner that we're used to seeing Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder perhaps take care of business. I'd say the way I look at it is he fights more of his own pace. He's more of a thinking fighter. He's more looking at angles. He's more about timing and accuracy rather than necessarily worrying about steamrolling someone in 30 seconds. The way Charles Martin moves from a southpaw stance, there are comparisons in my mind to Tony Thompson, although I think Charles Martin carries a lot more power than Tony Thompson. But he's got that kind of tall, rangy, awkward southpaw angle to him, which I think is really good. I think that range and that angle can put a lot of fighters off their step. And I also think that sometimes means that you can have the distance and have the angle to allow yourself a bit more breathing room in terms of time. I don't think you've got to be all over an opponent instantly when you bring that dynamic to the game. So I thought Barry Jones was quite harsh when he called Charles Martin crude. I think Martin was kind of having a look at Dallas, trying to work his way in, and getting, I'm not sure if it's the first time Charles Martin's fought someone in a pro ring who was maybe taller than him. So I thought that was relevant as well, and I think it's a good experience, certainly, to fight someone who's rangier than you are. Dallas, for what it's worth, didn't really bring anything to the fight. He didn't really land with anything of note. Charles Martin was kind of able to avoid anything offensive he threw. A few things I liked from Charles Martin in the fight. People talk about his straight right, his straight sort of backhand, if you like. Yes, obviously that's the sort of money punch. But there was a punch that hurt Dallas, which was actually a sort of front hand shot. Clearly Martin carries a bit of venom in both hands, which is always good to see. I guess the other thing to say is, when he landed that sort of highlight reel punch at the end, he kind of fainted with the jab a bit. And that's what I mean. I think there's a little bit more education to Charles Martin's game than we see with a Deontay Wilder. Clearly Wilder at this stage is ahead of Charles Martin, clearly. But for me, I think Wilder kind of leaves himself open. He leaves himself very exposed. He rushes in. He forces the pace a bit much. In terms of minimising the chance of getting knocked out, I think there's less chance of Tony Thompson getting knocked out in a fight than there is with Deontay Wilder. Because I think whilst Deontay Wilder will go charging in like a bull in a china shop, and look trying to steamroll someone, Tony Thompson will keep his distance. He'll use his range. He'll use angles. He'll bob a bit more, up and down. He might throw a jab, and it may not be like a killer jab, but it will be a rangefinder. He may throw a little feint. He may lead with his backhand, and this is stuff I'm seeing from Charles Martin, and I'm liking. Clearly Tom Dallas. Let's be frank. Tom Dallas is an average fighter. He isn't one of the top 10 heavyweights in Britain. He probably is borderline not even one of the top 20 heavyweights in Britain. But he's got, he's got size. He's not old. And yeah, I think obviously Charles Martin's going to be looking for bigger, better opponents. But a first round KO is good work. It's good to have that experience in the bank. And hopefully Charles Martin moves on to bigger, better things. Clearly, I like Charles Martin, but in my eyes, in terms of ranking him towards the top of the heavyweight division, and I appreciate he's top 10 with certain governing bodies, but I personally wouldn't rank him that high at this particular stage because he hasn't necessarily beaten the calibre of opposition that he needs to get there. But I'm sure he wants to fight better opposition, and hopefully we'll see that coming through sooner rather than later. That's my thoughts. Did you watch the fight? How did you think it went? Did you think Barry Jones was being harsh in commentary? I'd be keen to discuss. Thanks for watching.